To another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and I've been sharing my visit to Texas distilleries and some of the bottles I brought back. And I've really had awesome opportunities to interact with some of the people behind the scenes, the CEOs, the distillers, or people working in the tasting room. And in this video, I've got that awesome opportunity to have Emma Niemeyer, who works at the Crowded Barrel, as a guest. But before I bring her on, give you just a little synopsis if you're not really familiar with the Crowded Barrel. So, to make a long story short, Roy Williams, who was a marketing genius, started the Wizard Academy. And the Wizard Academy is about marketing, stuff like that. So that was already founded in Austin, Texas. And then Rex Williams, who you may know from the Whiskey Tribe and the Whiskey Vault, sort of recruited Daniel Whittington to come on board and help run the school. And Daniel was teaching sort of like a class to those who are going through the marketing class on about whiskey. That sort of became the seed to start a whiskey tuber channel, as we like to call them, whiskey tubers, which gave seed to the Whiskey Tribe, which is the followers, and the Whiskey Tribe on Facebook, which then spawned the Crowded Barrel Distillery, a 100% crowd-funded distillery that's come out of the community of the Whiskey Tribe. So it's been really interesting to see how this has sort of grown and blossomed and really just become huge. So I've had the opportunity to visit a couple times, and Daniel and I have done videos for my channel. I've been on their channel. And so we're sort of doing a look behind the scenes to really see the brains behind the distillery, those who are doing the really hard work, while Daniel and Rex are yucking it up with their shenanigans and drinking whiskeys. So, all right, so I'm going to bring on enough introductions. I'm going to bring on Emma. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So, for those who don't know who you are, they may know you from, if they're a member of the tribe on Facebook. So tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do at the distillery, and sort of your introduction, how you got into whiskeys.
Yeah, so at Crowded Barrel, I am the distillery manager and blender. And I first got into whiskey just by drinking it and loving the spirit. And I started taking Daniel's whiskey marketing school classes and kind of stuck my nose in where I could to help out where I could. And so when it came time to open up the distillery, they offered me the distillery manager job. And I was very eager to take that and have been with them since before we opened. And so as we grow, there's more and more opportunity to start blending, and we really love getting into our single barrel releases and our Alliance series, partnering with other distilleries, and it's growing a lot, and I am very happy to be part of it.
So you've gone through the whiskey sommelier. Get a little bit back. You've gone through the whiskey sommelier training. How far have you gotten along in that study?
Yeah, so I am a level 3 now, and the school is about 5 years old, and I believe the first level 4 class may be this fall. So,
oh wow, okay,
yeah, it's coming along really well.
So I did a video on that, because and on all that, which I don't want to go too much into that, but I would kind of, because I'm considering doing it for myself. My biggest issue is they don't do it on the weekends; they do it during the week. Yeah. And so, with a commute day to go from California to Texas and a commute day to come back, so you're basically killing the midweek in travel plus taking the classes. So that's that's a challenge. If it was on a weekend, I could fly out late Thursday night, Friday night, go down there, do it over the weekend, then come back. But anyway, so I've had some guys on who have gone through level 1, level 2. I'm curious as to, so what's the differences between the level 2 and the 1 and the level 3 and 2? Is sort of what do they do in those?
Yeah, so the main differences are the content of what you're learning. And so level 1 focuses more on whiskey as a whole category, and you learn all of the fundamentals that you'll need to know about whiskey. Level 2 focuses on American whiskey. Level 3 focuses on UK whiskey. Okay. But each class still covers blind trio tastings, the history. We do a public speaking section, a writing section, because you're also learning how to communicate about what
Right.
you're doing, how to communicate about what you're finding in the glass and that sort of thing. So the content itself kind of goes from style of whiskey to style.
Okay. So you first starts off some more general, and then starts getting into specifics in terms of the United States, and then the UK.
Yeah.
So do you have an idea where the level 4, what they tend to cover in level 4, or do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I think Daniel's rewritten that curriculum a few times and is still working it out. So I
Okay.
am very eager to find out, though.
Right. So, and you're, of course, you live and work there. It's a little easier to take the classes on people come from outside the country. But if anybody is curious, because I was a skeptic. I was a skeptic about the tribe. I was a skeptic about Daniel and Rex. I looked at him. It's kind of like, I don't know about these guys. Like, I wasn't on board 100% the first time around, but I did a little inquiry and did a little research and behind the scenes and that kind of thing. And of course, eventually met up with the guys and realized, yes, the Whiskey Tribe is a cult. It's a happy cult. It's one I'm more than willing to join. In fact, I didn't have a beard before I met them, and suddenly I had this inner urge to grow a beard after I met them. And
me too. I've been working on it, and it's not happening for me.
So I'm gonna choke on my whiskey.
Sorry.
So let's see. So how did you come? How did you find out about? So you were into whiskey before working at the distillery, before taking the classes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how long? So I've been into wine for 20 years. I've only been to whiskey for a little over 3.5 years. So my whiskey started not that long ago, but I quickly, doubled down. I've been to 40 distilleries, traveling around Scotland and all over the place. So I've gone full bore. So so how long have you been into whiskeys then?
Probably, I guess it's been about 4 years, 4 or 5, and then didn't really start learning a lot about whiskey until 3.5 years ago. So when I first started drinking whiskey, it was a friend who handed me a glass and was like, "Hey, you should try this." And it was a bourbon, and I really liked it. And so when I would go to restaurants or bars, I would find usually something I was familiar with, because I really didn't know anything about whiskey. And then it wasn't until I moved out to Austin that I met the community of whiskey people that I have now. So like Daniel and Deb, started meeting more and more people in their circle of whiskey, and started to learn a lot from them. And they opened up my whole world with different styles of whiskey, was introduced to Lefroy and fell in love with that one. And so that wasn't until about 3.5 years ago when I moved to Austin.
Okay. So so working at the distillery, so how did you go to, I love whiskey, but I don't know if I could run a distillery. So what particularly skills and gifts, education, background you think you also had that you brought in to then sort of manage the Crowded Barrel as well?
Yeah, so I got a degree in writing, and so kind of that marketing background a little bit with writing. And before I started working for Crowded Barrel, I co-owned a whiskey tasting business with Deb. And so we guide private events for whiskey tasting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So when I'm trying to find a little bit more about you, I run this Whiskey Chicks. So, and I have it on my list of things to discuss, but continue on. I will get more into that.
Yeah. So we do private events, and sometimes it'll be for like a corporate gathering or a party, and we will guide whiskey tastings, whether they're bourbon runs or tours of Scotland, that sort of thing. And also did the vault tours. So at the Whiskey Vault, they do they're almost crash courses to level 1, just little mini sessions. And I schedule those and host a lot of them. So kind of had a background in that sense when it comes to serving whiskey. I started off, as well as managing the tasting room. I bartended when we first opened up too. And so that kind of gave me great practice in talking to people about our whiskeys in a way that's great for people that are either experienced with it or brand new to the spirit. But other than that, I've done a lot of different types of jobs that I think kind of gave me a rounded skill set that it's a small business, so anything can happen and you just have to be ready for it. And I kind of have learned as I go as well.
So, because even if you manage, say, another similar establishment, every place has its unique, trials and tribulations, its challenges, its ups and downs, So, I've hopped around from here to place, working in similar business in places, and it's almost like you start from scratch every time because things can be so different. And the big part is, of course, the people. The big part of the people part of it. The personalities you got to deal with it and so forth. So who then is the distiller that you have there?
So Deb is our distiller.
I think it's about time that we officially introduce Deb.
Oh yeah.
Because she's been wandering around for a while.
Just wandering around in the background.
Introduce us to Deb.
This is Deb Niemeyer. She is the head distiller. And by that I mean that sometimes I'd like to distill something, but I'm gonna have to ask Deb for permission.
So Deb is basically helping us execute all the stuff that all the decision points being chosen in the whiskey quests. She makes sure that those are done well.
So Deb Niemeyer, and how she's related to you?
She's actually my mother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The family bit's cool. Cool. So I know I've seen. So when I was there, they had like this teeny weeny sort of still, and in the process of getting a new one.
We are. So we've been looking at we have 2 right now we're looking at, and we're looking for a 3rd. In our Patreon, once we find 3 stills that we will love regardless of which one we pick, our Patreon is going to vote on which one we go with. Yeah.
So not only has this sort of been founded financially, but there's input from the tribe as well, as if everybody's sort of a partial owner of the distillery, and so they have input, and they're part of the group as well. That's really
vote on everything that we're making. So each step of the process, when we're distilling, they'll vote. Like for our first single malt, they voted on the type of barley, whether it would be peated or not. Since they voted yes to peat, they voted on the percentage of the mash bill that would be peated. And then when we source whiskey and we're doing finishes and things like that, they'll vote on maybe what kind of wine barrel we go with to finish. Okay. Or if we trade barrels a lot with Acapon Brewery and Dripping Springs. And so we'll give them a bourbon barrel to put an imperial stout in, and then they'll give it back to us. And then we'll put a bourbon in there to finish with the stout. And so they vote on okay, what are we going to put in this stout barrel that we just got? We have these options in the barrel house right now. So they're helping pick a lot of these options, and it's making for some really interesting products.
So I know Andalusia, they use an Irish peat, which is kind of unusual. Where are they getting the peat from?
We're doing the same, Irish peat.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a lark from Tasmania?
No.
I'm fairly certain they've got one in the vault, so you might want to keep it.
Okay.
So the Australian whiskey from Tasmania, very, very challenging to get here, but they use a native peat there from Tasmania.
Nice.
And so when I had Andalusia's peated whiskey, the Revenant? No, the peated
Revenant Oak.
Yeah, the Revenant Oak peated. My brain's other than it's not as sweet as the Lark, the general profile was very, very, very similar. So I'm interested to see how yours comes out as well, and if it seems to come out similar, if I can get a bottle, if it comes out similar to Revenant Oak, because then you would have a commonality of the impact of Irish peat and how that impact, and see how that's like. So I do a side-by-side comparison as well. So you mentioned blending earlier, and a little bird told me, I guess you recently paid a visit over to Balcones?
I did. Yes.
So what you had going on over there?
So I had reached out to them about the master classes that they do, and they had them in 2019, but they're not going to do them in 2020. But instead, I went up there and just spent some time working on blending with them. So I was there a few days and Gabe hosted me, and we worked through. Man, they had so many samples out on the counter to go through from different barrels, looking for a specific profile, and so we weeded through those and really just selected, kind of rated them based off of whether we thought they matched the profile and how and which direction, flavor direction they went. And then if we marked them as no, we would say why, or maybe this is close if you need more of this note or that note. So we just worked through a lot of whiskey.
That sounds, it sounds a lot of fun, and yet it's not just off. You got to focus.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain amount of focus. You got to pay attention. You got to have a good sensory memory. And you got to, so I'm just curious, so with wine, I've been on panels with wine, but not with whiskey and doing blends. Were you just curious, were you spinning in between, or did you just swallow? Or
some of them. So I would get to a point in the day where I just knew like my palate's done. Right. Before that, I would spin, especially if I felt like the nose of a whiskey was spot on, I would taste that one and swallow that one. But when I felt like the nose of a sample was totally off, I might taste it and spit it. And then if from that impression I got that, no, this palate is promising, then I might taste it again. But for the most part, tried to pace myself in that way and picked and chose which ones I thought were worthy of spinning.
So, I mean, that sounds like it totally, I mean, I'm gonna admit, I'm a little jealous. I mean, I'd be, man, that would be awesome. I would love to do that. I loved my experiences down in Texas. Don't like the weather so much. Love the people down there. Love the weather. There's slight undulating hills and the trees. It has this unique beauty and culture there. So I actually love it down there. So I'm kind of like, oh, that would be so awesome to do something like that.
Well, what I love about Kona's is it's not just great whiskey, but they're great people too. And it's so easy to get behind a product when it doesn't only taste amazing, but the people are truly incredible people.
Right. Absolutely. And I found that with everybody I've met down there, just been really, really fantastic people and very distinctive, unique histories and backgrounds and how they come to their journey and come to where they're at. So someone here is here in California who also has an impact with, I'm trying to think, Iron Rouge Republic, as well as, Still Austin, is Nancy Fraley.
Yeah.
Have you met her by any chance?
I want to, though.
But she kind of seems like almost sort of a forerunner of or trailblazer for what you're now doing, and perhaps the path you're sort of going into.
Yeah, I have tried a lot of different products that she has touched as she's gone through and worked with different distilleries, and they're incredible. And to be able to just listen to her talk about her process, I would love that.
Right.
She's amazing.
So it's kind of interesting seeing women in wine and whiskey and unique impact and the gifts and skills, abilities, and perspectives that they bring. In the wine world, there's a lady by the name of Mary Edwards. She's known as the sort of the queen of Pinot Noirs in the Russian River. Absolutely spectacular Pinot Noirs. And then there's a lady by the name of Lizzie, who was master distiller for Dalwhinnie in Scotland. And I met her. I just happened to be. It wasn't planned. I wasn't even planning to go to the distillery, but I just sort of popped in there as I was heading south. I had actually heading back up to Glasgow to meet up with Roy, and I might as well stop in here. And she just so happened to be in the tasting room. It wasn't planned. She just happened to pop in there. So I got an autograph and got to talk to her and stuff like that, which is really, really, really cool. So it's really, really cool that you've got Whiskey Chicks and that you're sort of at the very, very early stages of Texas whiskeys. I mean, it's only 10 years old and it's still finding its own identity. People are still carving a little niche in terms stylistically as to where things are going. And I think it's really, really cool as to where you're at and be able to learn from that environment. I'm kind of like, I would love to be down there.
Well, next time you're coming to visit, let me know.
Absolutely. I might be down there in July, but I have to sort of wait and see. So I've been on a waiting list to get into the Springbank school in
Oh,
Campbellton. So I just sent them an email a couple of days ago. They have a waiting list. They only do it for a few months, and it's for a whole week working at the distillery hands-on. And Springbank is very old school, no computers, chalk. You know, you're writing things on chalkboards, and they do their own barley. They have a malting floor. I visited in July 2019, but if I don't go on to that, then my calendar in terms of vacation time, I'll be free now to be able to come down to Texas again, probably in July. Hot time of the year, but it'll be my birthday. So I'll come down there.
You'll make it worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they have the Psalm class that week as well. So
wait, what's your birthday?
Yeah, so my birthday is July 4th is on a Monday. July 6th is Monday is my birthday, and the class is like July 7th and 8th.
That's my birthday too.
July 6th?
Yeah.
Oh wow. What do you know? Oh, that's awesome. Of course, I was born a few decades probably before you were born. Oh wow, that's cool. So I'm 1966.
Very nice. Very nice.
So in your whiskey journey over the last few years, have you developed any particular favorites, any landing in terms of any particular categories of whiskey?
Yeah, so from the moment I tried Lefroy for the first time, I fell in love with Pete.
Wow.
So that hasn't changed at all. But one that was kind of new. So I used to hate sherry finishes. Did not like them ever. And all of a sudden, one summer, I started tasting them again, and something like a switch flipped, and I love them now. So that's something that's developed over time.
Cool.
I think your palate just changes at times, and I will always go back to a whiskey I don't like. If I don't like it at one point, I'll go back and try it again another time.
So I'm just grabbing a couple bottles here.
Please do.
So in studying for the diploma with the Wine and Spirit Educational Trust, it's a 2-year program, 6 units, and one of the units is on fortified wines. So I had to study and learn about sherries. This is the Lustal Amontillado, and this is the Taylor Fladgate 10-year-old port. Okay. So you talk about blending. I'm planning on doing some home blending. There's another channel called Ear Whiskey, Matt Ear Whiskey, and he's done a few things. In fact, he had Daniel on, and they talked about blending during a stream on his channel. So what I'm planning on doing, I have some bourbons that I think are Californians that are a little too young.
Okay.
They have that little green note to them. I took several years of wood shop, and you ever like plane wood where you push a planer and the wood peels out and you get that fresh smell of fresh planed wood? Yeah. Kind of got that character in there. So what I'm hoping to do is be able to finish or whatever these whiskeys and bourbons with just a hint of Amontillado, which is a dry sherry, and then a little more, and then also try with port without over mashing it. But you've done some blending there at Balcones, but do you do blending for Crowded Barrel as well?
I'm starting to more. And so we have a smaller project. I was mixing a couple different rye barrels and seeing what I could come up with. But we're sourcing while our own product is aging. And so we have a ways to go before our product is finished. And so we're doing a lot of different sourcing experiments. And we just got a shipment of barrels in a couple weeks ago. And so I pulled samples of all of those this week. And I'm going to be kind of sampling and keeping track of tasting notes at various times, and then working, really just playing with it, which is what I'm excited about. I don't really have any particular thing in mind. One thing I really love about our crowdsourcing aspect is it really changes things for us and gives us so much creativity, because I could come up with a few different things and then be like, all right, guys, so here's a couple different bases, maybe. Which direction would you like to keep going in? And then I could maybe look at this section of barrels that have this flavor profile and play around with that and give them tasting notes of how the blends turn out and really just start working with them.
Right.
And so I think, when I start getting more and more into blending for Crowded Barrel, there's so much potential there with what we can do, since we do so many small releases.
Right.
We can do more different things.
So like a lot of other larger distilleries, this is our core range. and you can't mess with the core range. The core range is the core range.
Yeah.
And they might do a special bottle here or a special bottling there, but if you're primarily a micro distillery where nothing's in large production, you don't have a core range, everything's experimental, then you can really, really try a lot of different things. And because you're not doing in large quantities, if you goof up a large quantity, that's a lot of money. Versus if you're doing really small things, you can be a little bit more free to play around with it because it is in such small quantities.
Yeah. So our single malt that she's been distilling for a while now, I think it's been a year. I'm still thrown off sometimes by how long it's been since we opened because it still feels so new. But so our single malt is going to be kind of like one of our core products.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Still small batch, but it's something that she keeps working on, even though we did that initial run with our Patreon. Between other projects, she goes back to making our single malt. And our Patreon just started voting on the very early stages of a bourbon.
Okay.
But again, we're still doing a lot of sourcing as well. So having those like random single barrels that we release or smaller finishing products. And even, our core lineup still might not be something that we have on a very massive scale because we are small. It might be like, here's batch 1 released X date, and then maybe 6 months later we'll have batch 2, but we're so new that we don't really have a timeline on that. I'm still like taking samples from our aging barrels and just kind of checking on them and having my fingers crossed that they'll be ready soon.
So one of the you have, one of the bottles I picked up when I was there in September. I'm going to take a sip real quick.
Yeah.
If you have anything poured, feel free to imbibe. So
I'm drinking for Gellicky.
There you go. See, the real gift is if you're talking, then I can drink, and then when I'm going blah 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 blah,
there we go.
Tip to do when you're out, keep them right out there. So one of a bottle I picked up there. So my first visit, this is batch 6.2 of the Eleanor. So my first visit, I picked this one up, and my second visit, I picked this one up. This is a line series, and this is a blend. The print on there is super, 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 super tiny. I gotta get like a microscope in order to read it, but it's a small bottle, small print. So, but it's Andalusia, Iron Root, and Balcones blend. But it doesn't say percentages. Would you happen to be familiar with this particular bottling? I'm just kind of curious.
Yes, that was the first Texas Whiskey Festival blend that we did, and so the guys from Iron Root, Balcones, and Andalusia and Daniel worked on a blend at our distillery, and I believe Deb was there, and Jake Clements, the founder of the Texas Whiskey Festival. And so they kind of worked on this blend together and came up with some various samples, and whoever wasn't able to make it that day, they managed to get samples to them so that they could all try it and kind of come together on one Texas whiskey blend, which hadn't been done before. And it really created just a magical product, and they all just complemented each other so well. I believe it was Striker. So you had a little bit of the smoke from Striker, from Andalusia. The Iron Root that we got had that Bloody Butcher corn in it. The barrel that we got from Balcones was one that went more in like the direction of Mirador. So the combination of those three things was just so beautiful. But it was also cool just to see it all kind of come together with the different distilleries. And we just bottled the second one about a month ago, I guess, waiting on labels. But Jake came out to help bottle with that. We had fun. So the second festival blend will be coming out soon. And that one is 3 different Texas distilleries that weren't in the first one. And so I'm looking forward to this being a recurring project that we do and working with different distilleries each time.
And then the Whiskey Festival is in March, right?
Yeah.
Is it March 6th?
Whatever that Saturday is, that first Saturday of March.
Okay. Yeah, so Daniel was talking a little bit. They had a live stream, and they were talking a little bit about that. I'm tempted. I might jump on a plane and come down there. I'll have
You
to look at the flight.
should.
I'll see if I can make it down there. I absolutely hate flying, but
Mhm.
I have a fear. Yeah, I have a fear of flying, but I don't let it keep me from doing what I want to do.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. Particularly flying all over to Scotland. It's about 10.5 hours to get to London, and then another half an hour, 45 minutes to get up to Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I don't sleep and I don't relax on the plane the whole time, so I'm kind of.
Oh man.
But anyway, I might make it down there anyway. I may surprise people down there, but I'm just getting into this one. But I do really, really like it. So, of course, a lot of people who are watching this are not in Texas. These things are hard to get a hold of. Not everybody can get down there. But I have been trying to. Part of the things I do in my channel is I'm not a review channel. I don't buy a lot of store bought one. Hey, today I'm reviewing this. The common bottle. Because a lot of my fellow whiskey tubers are doing that, and you don't need to hear me do that. Other people are doing that. I tend to be a little bit more academic, a little more studying, but also traveling and exploring and sharing my travel. But trying to encourage Texas whiskey tourism, and people to take a vacation, go down to Texas, and visit these distilleries. And particularly, you have sort of San Antonio and Austin within a short driving distance, and easily, I mean, you can spend at least a week there visiting distilleries every day.
Yeah, there's so many.
As well.
Mhm.
So another thing I like about this is it sort of reflects the cooperative efforts and a camaraderie, a friendly competition, and yet camaraderie down there as well. So a lot of times, say in Scotland, when you buy a blended Scotch, it's a blended Scotch, but you don't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes, and it may be strictly business, not necessarily between everybody who's involved in it. But I like that they feel free. Everybody feels free to recommend and highly and suggest checking out their fellow distillers down there as well.
I love to learn from all of those guys. They There's a lot of camaraderie. It's a very friendly industry with each other, and I've gotten to learn from Ty at Andalusia, and I love hanging out with the Licorice Brothers and Marsha because anytime I'm around them, I always learn something new, and they're just good people and fun to be around.
Absolutely.
It's a really great community.
So we mentioned that. So there's another whiskey festival bottling coming out,
Mhm.
and you've been doing some blendings and barrels. Is there anything else? If so, someone's coming down there and they're going to visit. Is there anything you think in particular you would recommend? Something that they should keep an eye out for, or I want to check out while they come and visit?
Yeah, so for our distillery specifically,
Right.
we actually, so one thing that I found really fun, we sourced some Scottish whiskey, and it is called the Royal Bastard, and it's 13-year-old cash strength whiskey from Scotland. We can't call it Scotch anymore.
Right. So did they do the teaspoony thing or something because you can't export single malt Scotch, therefore they put a little to get around the legality. They put one drop of something else, and so now it's actually a blend.
Yeah. And it turned out so nice with some great like honey and melon notes to the palate. We have, I think we ended up getting about 550 bottles of that one. I think we have about 50 left, 50 to 80 bottles left.
Wow.
So if anyone's coming out to the distillery in the next few weeks, I at least recommend trying that one.
Right.
And one thing that I really love is we got this Polish rye. And so there are these two brothers who lived in Poland and owned a distillery, ran it there, and then they decided to move to Florida. And when they moved, they brought their barrel stock with them to Florida. And those barrels got bought off by a bunch of different brokers. And so we ended up sourcing 4 Polish rye barrels that spent some time in Poland and then Florida. And then I think the broker ended up getting them in Nebraska or something. And then they came to Texas.
Wow.
So a lot of history with those, and they're very nice and unique, and just have, they have those typical rye tasting notes. One of them came out really like black pepper spice, and one of them had more of like an herbal quality to it. That was really nice. But we finished one of them in a Scotch ale barrel from Occopan, and it's kind of funky and cool, and you can really taste the Scotch ale in there. And that one it's been sitting in a tank for a little bit because it's been ready for a while, and we've just been waiting on the whole label approval process. But the next month or so, that one will be coming out. That I would recommend people trying, just because it's different. It's a rye and a Scotch ale barrel, and you just don't often see that combination.
So one of the things in terms of uniqueness of visiting the distillery is the sort of the atmosphere and the nice patios that they have out in front. When you first are starting to drive up there, I'm trying to describe the layout of the place. You're sort of driving up a hill, and you see this one building kind of popping its head up out of the trees, and that's the tower for the distillery. Then you kind of peek at the top of the hill. It rolls down a little bit, and then you hang this little left, and you kind of go through these through the wall or gate there. It's a very narrow road. You go up over a little bridge, and then boom, you come to the Fang and Feather, and there's kind of a walk up to get into the patio area like that. So it is really kind of a mysterious adventure. Okay, what have they got going on back here? What kind of, and then if you watch the tribe videos, the guys are a little wacky or so to speak. And occasionally, I've noticed they kind of get you involved in that.
Oh, it's so good. It's gonna froth so much. Aiming for the shaker with the ice, with the eggs, in a giant water balloon slingshot. Emma, are you prepared for maximum froth?
So prepared for maximum froth.
Okay, load it in. You got this.
Guys, I'm so sorry.
You got it.
A little bit sometimes.
Including a little bit of target practice.
Yes, that one. I think that was my favorite day of work. Yeah, by far. Got to shoot eggs at my boss. That was fun.
How many of us get to throw things and shoot things and try to hit our boss with eggs? Particularly, he was holding. I think was supposed to be the target in a particular area while he had the helmet on.
Yes. And I think that video was so long ago. I think it was when the thing like how fast would you need something to cook a chicken or whatever.
So the name of the episode is Whiskey Sour Experiments Frothy Edition is the name of it. So it starts. Wait. And so they were making whiskey sours, and they had you try them, and the one you liked was peated one.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I'm not a huge whiskey sour fan, so I probably wouldn't have loved any of them, but seeing how the type of whiskeys changed the flavors was really interesting, and I definitely liked the one they used Ardbeg in, because I gotta love a smoky cocktail. Come on.
So, what do you think? I mean, in terms of looking at Texas, it's in its early years, and what is your perception of sort of where it's going? I'm a big student of history, watching trends, and particularly of wine, the history of the Napa Valley. I feel like, and this is just me, of course we had Prohibition, which basically killed the alcohol industry in the United States. But you had in the 1960s the sort of the little sprouts of the wine industry starting to come back. And then the shakers and movers, those who had a vision, were planning right there. Starting in 1966, I was born, Robert Mondavi. And then in 1976, 10 years later, they have the Judgment of Paris, in which they beat the French in the blind competition. And then boom, everything kind of exploded and went from there, putting Napa on the map. And I'm kind of looking at Texas and wondering, other than us whiskey tubers, and then of course now Iron Root just got a big write-up as Bourbon of the Year.
Yeah.
Which was up. I'm kind of wondering what is coming up, and is Texas going to sort of really become known as the big thing? I mean, I'm complete speculation or whatever, but I just think it has all the ingredients. There's the timing is there, the people are there, the spirit of Texas is there. I'm just really looking down the road to seeing, hey, this is really going to become a thing, and that the world is going to talk about. And we're fortunate enough to be at the early stages and see it all sort of get born and grow up. And right now, it's sort of in it hasn't hit the teens yet, so it's in that pre-teen stage. It's awkward pre-teen stage, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, I am too. I think there's a lot of potential, and I'm hopeful for it. I think it's going to be amazing. Texas whiskey it already stands out, and I think the more people learn about it, the more distribution that happens, the more it spreads. I think there's definitely going to be some fun things to see ahead.
So do you have any, so I've already got this whole year planned of where I'm going with whiskey. I need to study more Japan. I need to study more Canada, and I need to study more Ireland. Those are 3 areas which I haven't spent as much time on. And so I've already sort of plotted out over the next few years, exploring. I might take a trip to Ireland. I know Rex and Daniel have been over there. I've been looking at Japan, maybe taking a trip to Japan, go to Japan. I don't know about going to Canada. We'll see. But so have you got any sort of, in terms of your own understanding, studying, and journey in whiskey, things you kind of want to do, explore in the future, or anything like that?
Yeah, I am. I did go to Kentucky last August, and I spent a weekend there for the Bourbon Women's Symposium, and then I spent a couple extra days on my own just doing different distillery tours. And I feel like I just kind of touched the surface, and I would always be willing to go back and would love to go back and explore more of them, to just see that history. And it's such a larger scale compared to what we're doing in Crown Barrel that it's fascinating. I think in one of the tours, they said it took them an hour to bottle 11 barrels or something, or it took them half an hour to bottle 11 barrels. And I'm just thinking, man, at the start, it took me like 3 hours just to bottle one. Right. So just seeing that kind of like that different scale of distilling. But I love learning, and I would love a trip to Scotland to tour distilleries there is definitely in the works. But for now, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can from the people around me and from the other Texas distilleries. And as far as whiskey categories go, I have been delving a little bit more into Irish whiskey. I really like it, but only have tried, so many of them. And so I'm trying to just get my hands on more of the distilleries I can and see what that country has to offer.
Right. They're kind of going through a renaissance right now. It used to be there were like 4 distilleries, and now look at a map. There's like 24 that you can actually visit all over Ireland. And I'm willing to bet, just like Texas, a lot of stuff, they're small and they're not getting out of Texas. There's no distribution. You got to go there, get them. Which makes me want to go there even more to see what I can bring back, what treasures I can find that aren't yet discovered by the rest of the world, and then bring them back and then share them with viewers.
Do you like Teeling?
So I've had Teeling. Of course, everybody's had Jameson and Tyrconnell. These are the ones that are a little bit more well known. But I like Teeling. But there's so many distilleries I've never heard of. You're never going to find them anywhere here that I just want to sort of get over there and check them out. I'm praying and hoping Japan gets their act together. They have their challenges. Yeah. They need their version of the SWA or the Texas Whiskey Association to sort of help them get codified in terms of their own identity, remain true to themselves, not bringing stuff from Scotland and Canada and all that stuff, and to preserve the name Japanese whiskey. Those are the kind of things I want to see from them. Yeah. I love the Mizunara cast and stuff like that. And right now everything's super, super young, and the age statements are kind of hard to find, or they're super expensive. But I have my hopes for them as well, that they'll come back around, because they've been making whiskey for over 100 years. And I would really like to see them preserve that historical identity to producing whiskey and stuff. So anyhow, so I'm going to wrap this up. It's coming up on dinner time. It's been absolutely fantastic. I could talk, for days about whiskey. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on. I really, really enjoyed it. And if I next time make it down there, we'll definitely have to get together and say hello.
Yes, and if you come in July, we can have a birthday whiskey.
That's right. I'm afraid to ask. Okay, so how old are you gonna be on your next birthday?
I'm gonna be 26.
Oh, I'm an old man. I'll be 54. I'll be 54. I'm almost old enough to be your grandpa. Oh man. Anyway, anyway, thanks for having you on. Hey, for everybody watching this, I'm sure everybody's watching this got to be a subscriber to the Whiskey Tribe and the Whiskey Vault. But if you're not, you should check them out. And if you're ever in Texas, it's a must-stop, place to check out. The Crowded Barrel. You might be able to meet Richard Amiro, who I have in another video, and not just in terms of tasting this bottle, that bottle, the ones that Emma just mentioned, but also have a cocktail and have sort of, even if they're in the middle of summer, you can have one on a nice big ice ball, as I've had them there, and enjoy them as cocktails as well. So again, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to come on. It's been absolutely fantastic getting to know you at least just a little bit.
Great being here and talking whiskey with you.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.